Declaring his love for the peace and prosperity of the Augustan era, the Roman poet Ovid stated, "I congratulate myself on not having arrived in the world until the present time. This age suits my taste." One of the things Ovid certainly enjoyed was the increasingly casual attitude towards sex and relationships adopted by Romans during his era. His Ars Amatoria, the art of love, may not be his most influential poetry 2,000 years later, but during his lifetime, it likely found the greatest reception among the people of Rome. The Art of Love was written around 2 CE and offers a useful portrait of the average Roman's attitude towards sex, love, and relationships. The first 2 books of the Ars Amatoria offer advice to men and contain helpful hints such as, "Don't forget her birthday," and "Don't ask her how old she is," tips that many men might still find useful today. The third gives similar advice to women. Sample themes include being wary of false lovers, a sentiment that I don't think any woman has ever needed a man's advice on. Ovid begins his work by suggesting good places for the men of Rome to meet the city's most attractive girls. His preferences include shady colonnades, shrines and temples, the theater, the Circus Maximus, banquets, and even the goddess Diana's woodland shrine outside the city. So, what other advice does Ovid have for the lovesick young men of Rome? He advised them to appear as natural as possible, thinking that the male form was most enticing when it was glowing with the health earned through persistent physical exercise on the Campus Martius, through activities such as ball games, javelin and discus throwing, or even horse riding. Ovid also suggested that young men take ice-cold baths in the water brought by the Aqua Virgo aqueduct or in the river Tiber. Cold shower people? You might be onto something. According to Ovid, men are at their most irresistible to Roman women when they are simply but elegantly dressed. He recommended a well-adjusted toga free from any stain or blemish, as well as bespoke leather shoes complete with polished, rust-free fastenings. A man's hair and beard must be expertly cut and not artificially curled. He also recommended that fingernails be kept well trimmed and clean. Nose hairs were a huge turn-off, he said, so best to just be rid of them. Frequent baths and perfumes would ensure that breath and body were free of any foul odors, or at least as free from them as one could hope to be in the famously fragrant city of Rome. Ovid also told men to improve their minds as well as their bodies. He recommended the study of oratory and the literary classics. However, he was quick to tell young men not to show off all their rhetorical training, as nothing would be more off-putting to a young girl than to be addressed with the formality or rancor reserved for the courts. Stick to poetry, fellas, and leave the advocacy for the courtroom. Book 3 of the Ars Amatoria is supposed to be aimed at women. However, as the poem progresses, it becomes clear that Ovid's advice for women is really about how best they can please men, rather than themselves. In it, Ovid tells women to be wary of a man with rings on his fingers, or whose hair is shiny with oil, or one whose toga is woven out of the finest wool. In his youth, he must have lost out one too many times to men that were dressed better than he was. He suggests women learn to sing or play a musical instrument because music is seductive, and these are the types of non-threatening accomplishments that are attractive to men. He also recommends women study poetry, such as the lyric poet Sappho, Anacreon, Meander, and, of course, Virgil's Aeneid. He even throws his own name among this prestigious lot, which may have seemed quite vain 2,000 years ago, but since we're still talking about him, it appears he earned his place. Girls should also learn to dance, so long as they're mimicking ballet dancers, and nothing more scandalous than that. He also said that the games young women should play differ from those that boys should play, and place less of an emphasis on physical activity. To this end, he recommends dice or knucklebones, and he believes that, win or lose, women must show self-control and grace regardless of the outcome. This was the most important characteristic of a Roman matron, and one that he frequently returns to. For outdoor exercise, he recommended that girls stroll in Pompey's arcade or climb up to the new temples and monuments on the Palatine Hill. They should frequent the altars of Isis, and especially the theaters and circus races, for these provided the best chance to be seen by the young men of the city. These passages give us some excellent context about the freedom of women to engage in these activities. Though he was, of course, only addressing women of the lower and middle classes, since aristocrats would never have been able to roam freely in pursuit of courtship. Young women of the wealthiest families were always attended to by slaves, and their marriages had likely been arranged years before they came of age. Another poem by Ovid, the Medicamina Faciae Feminae, translated as Cosmetics for the Female Face, contains his beauty advice on how women could make themselves appealing to a suitor. Though mostly lost to us, the section that has survived suggests some interesting ingredients for effective face masks. One such concoction includes myrrh, honey, fennel, dried rose leaves, salt, frankincense, and barley water, all mixed up into a paste. Another involves the nest of a kingfisher, crushed with Attic honey and incense. Ovid believes that women must take great care of their personal appearance because he states rather bluntly that they are not all beautiful, and so must make the most of their charms. He recommended that cosmetics should be used to create a pale complexion by using chalk powder, and the eyes should be shaded with fine charcoal or saffron, while wine lees could also be used for cosmetics. As if this wasn't enough work already, he believed that all these preparations must be done in private to preserve the idea of natural beauty. In his opinion, nothing was worse than seeing a girl applying makeup. The man certainly had a type. In addition to makeup, he emphasizes the need to sport delicately arranged hairstyles, and says that they must be varied from time to time to best suit each woman's particular face and the season. Blonde hair was all the rage at the time, so some women used soap imported from Germany to bleach their hair, while others simply opted to buy wigs near the Temple of Hercules or from the Muses in the Campus Martius that had been made from the hair of enslaved Germans. Ovid had wardrobe advice as well, stating that it was a mistake to spend a fortune on Tyrian purple or gold embroidery because other interesting colors could be had at a better price. As patronizing and, let's be honest, sexist as this sounds, there is a sense throughout the Ars that Ovid is being somewhat tongue-in-cheek, and that he may be satirizing Roman society to some extent, and not conveying his own incredibly specific predilections. But he was also divorced twice before he hit 30, so maybe the bluntness wasn't just an artistic decision. During courtship, Ovid believed that the woman should laugh quietly and in moderation, and should not open her mouth wide when speaking. He also advised self-control for men and women alike when drinking wine. The widespread popularity of the Ars is abundantly clear, and evidently it was useful to the rising generation of Romans growing up under the relative prosperity of Augustus's Pax Romana. His book quickly became popular, despite his open disregard of marriage vows and his rejection of conservative morality laid out by the Princeps. However, it would be a mistake to attribute libertine attitudes strictly to Ovid, and the young Romans were no different from us, and in an age of great material comfort did not need his work to encourage liberal attitudes towards sex and opulence. Indeed, the fierce indictments of the excesses of Roman society leveled by Martial and Juvenal a century later indicates that the trend far outlived Ovid. In the end, perhaps Ovid and the art of love were too influential for his own good. He relished being born into an era of peace and plenty, and ultimately enjoyed himself too much for the arch-conservative Augustus. Ovid was sentenced to spend the last decade of his life in exile in a remote Black Sea town in modern Romania. While we don't know exactly why Ovid was banished, he gave the reason as Carmen et error, a poem and a mistake. He would offer no other insight except to claim that what he did was, quote, not illegal, but worse than murder and more harmful than poetry, end quote. Though a pardon never arrived, Ovid would continue to write, and his death in exile made him a martyr figure for generations of misunderstood geniuses and artists struggling to create within authoritarian regimes. Perhaps this played a small part in securing his immortality and ensuring that his works would continue to be influential even thousands of years later.
Hi, Gaius here. Thanks for being part of our efforts to shed light on the more obscure topics related to the fascinating world of the ancient Romans. If you enjoyed Titus's work here, please do us a favor by liking and subscribing. Gratias vobis ago.